For me, ESG is values-based. It is something that is those values are something that are quite personal. When you come into a local area and you look at what it needs and what you want to do, you've got to marry those two things up. We're going to be here for decades. We need to work within our local community, be accepted by our local community, and have a permanent license to operate here. And that's why these ESG initiatives are so important to me personally, because I live here.
Adriatic Metals is a precious and base metals explorer and developer that owns the world-class Vares silver project in Bosnia and Herzegovina. The project consists of 2 deposits located at Rupice and Veovaca, and Adriatic is currently expediting exploration to expand the current JORC resource. To discuss more about its ESG initiatives and achievements is Managing Director and CEO Paul Cronin. Paul, welcome to TCN TV.
Thanks, Lita. It's great to be here.
When it comes to ESG, can you talk us through your approach when it comes to Adriatic Metals and development?
Yeah, our ESG framework is largely values-based. So we have plenty of these diagrams around our office that talk about our 4 pillars being community, environment, sustainability, and people. And then we have 10 key behaviours that we believe support those. And our entire ESG framework is really based around those behaviours. It's trying to instill in our staff that they have an obligation to our community, they have an obligation to their environment. And all of those policies are being framed to support that.
And Adriatic Metals is, of course, focused on silver exploration. Can you outline what ESG applications silver may have?
Well, look, silver has a number of green uses. I mean, it's heavily involved in the photovoltaic industry, but more recently, where we're seeing silver emerge as an industrial usage is in the electrification of vehicles. So, you know, it does have a number of uses, but as it's sort of being less involved in photovoltaics, it's becoming more involved in EV.
And Paul, mining is obviously an industry that has a significant environmental impact. How are you mitigating that impact in your operations and also managing waste disposal and land disturbances, for example?
The first thing to do for any land disturbance is you've got to involve your local community. We have excellent community relations. We have a community relations team. We have what we call a public liaison committee, where we've taken 30 representatives from the local community and we discuss what we're doing on the project with them. We also have a number of other platforms where we communicate with the local community about what we're doing. But in terms of the way we're designing the project, Rupice is going to be an underground project where it could also be an open pit. That decision was based on environmental grounds, on minimal disturbance at surface. But we've also got very clear systems and policies in place that apply not only to our staff, but also to our contractors and in the future to all of our suppliers that say these are the practices that you must observe. So in looking at our community and our natural environment and indeed our built up environment in the local town and roads, we've done a number of studies where we look at water quality, biodiversity, air quality, soil quality, the potential for acid generation. And we apply solutions to our processing to make sure that we actually make no permanent impact, that all of the impact that we do have is very much temporary, minimised, and is in the best interests of that local community.
And Paul, you have recently established an ESG committee. What's the role and purpose of this committee?
Yeah, we wanted to get that committee set up very early. I guess ESG as a concept, and particularly within the mining industry, is still evolving and it's changing all the time. So we wanted to get that committee set up with dedicated members who were going to be looking at the way we're doing things, not just in terms of our ESIA work, but looking at the way we are managing and reviewing matters in the workplace with the community, environmental impacts, stakeholder relationships, permitting, our interactions with government, et cetera, et cetera. But because it is an evolving area of our industry, we engaged a group called Critical Resource in London, who are a leading advisory company on ESG specific to the mining industry, to help us implement best practice. So a lot of the framework that we've implemented in terms of policies, in terms of the ESG Committee, is being guided by them. They are actually on mandate at the moment to effectively train that ESG Committee so that it knows what to look for, it knows what questions it should be asking, it knows what's happening in other projects around the world, and so that we can implement and support international best practice.
And finally, Paul, how are ESG expectations in the mining industry changing, and how do you see it continuing to evolve in the years ahead?
You know, how it would continue to evolve is what we're going to see is the company in the industry's best leaders in ESG, such as BHP, Rio Tinto, etc. Will basically, you know, junior companies like us will be looking to them for what they're doing and how they're doing it. But what we really want to demonstrate at Adriatic is that ESG is not something you think about when you go into production. ESG is something you think about really early on. And you've got to lay out a pathway and a framework. And I think if all junior companies can think like that, can do that, then what we're going to find is that the industry itself will be self-fueling in terms of the ideas that it comes up with, in terms of creating a much better and much more robust framework for how we interact with our natural environment, how we interact within our communities, and how we install the very best corporate governance within our companies without necessarily costing a lot of money.
Well, Paul, thank you so much for outlining your ESG principles, and all the best with implementing them for Adriatic.
Thanks very much, Lada. Appreciate your time.
And thank you for watching. Now, if you like what you see, please be sure to like and share the video, subscribe to TCN TV and drop us a comment. Tell us who you would like to see next and what you would like me to ask them, or if you're an investor, send us an email so we can keep you in the loop with the latest ideas to empower.